Björkdal is about 10, 11 kilometers from where Boliden started its mining. And Costerfield is about 30 kilometers from Fosterville, so very prospective areas. So leading to that, and we've been mining there a long time, that prospectivity is the second focus area of doing organic exploration in both those areas, to continue to do everything we can to replace the reserves and even grow the mines.
Hello to those tuning in to the Assay TV, where we're on the second day of our London mining investment event. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Frazer Bourchier, the President, CEO and Director of Mandalay Resources. Welcome, Frazer.
Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. So just for those people who aren't as aware of the company, can you give us a brief oversight of Mandalay, please?
Sure. Look, Mandalay is a producer. It's got two assets in what we call Tier 1 jurisdictions, produces about 100,000 ounces of gold equivalent a year. That's split roughly between 50% in Sweden and 50% in Australia. The one in Sweden is called Björkdal, large operation, long life mine. And the one in Australia in the state of Victoria is called Costerfield, shorter mine life, but very high grades and good cash flowing asset.
Excellent. And before we get into some of the finer details of those projects, let's talk about your appointment as CEO. Can you tell us a bit about that? What attracted you to Mandalay?
Yeah, sure. I joined the company about 7 months ago, and I was extremely excited. Look, it's a great opportunity in this environment, tough markets. I'm walking into a company that has good history. It has a great balance sheet. We're net cash positive. It's got a good facility that's been drawn about 20 million, but we're net cash positive. It's got, as I said, two producing assets that generate cash even after self-funded exploration. And I see that as a fundamental building block for a company that's producing cash, not an overstretched balance sheet, healthy position to be able to grow in size and scale. So, and it's got a number of shareholders, but 4 major funds that are extremely supportive. And when I add that all up with the board and the team that was in place, I saw this as an exceptional growth platform.
Excellent. And you've just mentioned Costa Field, so let's look at that a bit more. You just released a bit of an exploration update. Can you tell us what's happening there?
Sure. I think we've come out with a couple of exploration updates this year, but the most recent one really highlighted in a few areas. The first was what we call the Shepherd Zone, which is below the Ewell mining, where we've really been predominantly mining for the last 4 or 5 years. In the Shepherd Zone, what we identified there was yet, I believe it's the 3rd mineralized high-grade vein there. So that has the potential to extend what we call that Shepherd or Shepherd South by another 100 meters. So, so that was exciting news. We have a lot more follow-up to do there as this becomes our next mining zone. But the other results were under what we call the Brunswick. They were mining there, Mandalay mined there back in 2019. And these are a little bit below, underneath the old Brunswick mine, about the same horizon as the Ewell Shepherd, where we're mining now, but further to the west. But what was exciting about those is the grades were quite high, higher than it used to be in the Brunswick mine. It's a bit more complicated structurally. So as a result, we're just going to step back, reevaluate before we do more drilling in that area to see if that could be yet another mining horizon at the Costerfield mine.
So what would you say are the next steps for that project?
So the next steps, in addition to drilling out more in the Shepherd area, in the Shepherd South, as well as drilling under what we call the Brunswick that I just spoke to. And we're also targeting some of our regional targets. So there's a number, because everything I've talked about is what we call the central corridor of the mine. But there's a possibility to replicate that in other corridors. And one of them is what we call the True Blue. So we're going to be doing more drilling in the True Blue, the southern extent especially, that we're pretty excited about. Better access in the summertime. We're moving into the summertime now in Australia, so we'll be able to drill that off and follow up on a number of high prospective targets.
Excellent. Let's move over to the Björkdal mine. You've just recently received a mining permit there, I believe. What does that mean for the project?
Look, the mining permit was in just one particular area of Björkdal, which we call the Eastern Extension. And what's exciting about the Eastern Extension, really without that license extension, that permit, we were somewhat constrained in mining in that area. And while it's a large mine, and it's only 500 meters deep, I mean, it's been mining there since 1988, so there's so much more to go. It's open in all directions. But this is a higher grade portion of the mine, and we really want to target higher grade, higher margin ounces. So now that we have that permit, we can get in there and not only do more mining, we can also open it up, do some development drives, expand our targeted drilling. We mine about 25% of our ore from there now, but we'd like to ramp that up over the next few years just to increase our margins in our mill throughput.
Excellent. And as a lasting thought for some of our investors, can you round up some of the near-term growth strategies that Mandalay is targeting?
Look, sure. I mean, the growth strategies, we really are focusing on three things. We produce 100,000 ounces a year of gold, and we generate cash. And that's exciting. But in this market, sometimes you don't get that recognition when you're a player around that size. So we really have, developed and aligned along a strategy that has three focus areas. The first, of course, is to maintain a focus on and stability of our two existing operations in great jurisdictions. And again, Björkdal is about 10, 11 kilometers from where Boliden started its mining, and Costerfield is about 30 kilometers from Fosterville, so very prospective areas. So leading to that, and we've been mining there a long time, that prospectivity is the second focus area of doing organic exploration in both those areas, to continue to do everything we can to replace the reserves and even grow the mines. But the third area for us, it's clear that we're keen to embark on an M&A transaction, so what we would call inorganic growth, with other companies sort of like us in the sense of size, scale, maybe not the same areas per se, but predominantly gold focus, a sort of MOE type of transaction, if that makes sense. That allows us to increase both in scale and size, have synergies, as well as just increasing some of our trading liquidity, which is somewhat thin right now based on our supportive, but those four major funds I talked about as being supportive shareholders have about 80% of the stock. So we want to be able to increase that liquidity and increase scale and diversity. So that's really our plans going forward. To wrap up, we've had some changes in the team. I brought in a corporate development executive vice president, very skilled individual, Scott Trebilcock. We're having a change with the CFO, very skilled individual we had. That's a managed change, but he's moved back to Australia. So I want to add additional bench strength to the team as we focus on that platform going forward. We'll be generating positive cash next year, further strengthening the balance sheet, and growing our production profile and maintaining at least 100,000 ounces a year while we focus on this other growth. So that's really the plan going forward.
Excellent. Well, Frazer, thank you so much for spending some time with us today, and I certainly can't wait to hear more news flow moving forward.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate that.